All right, at this time we're going to call to order a public hearing of the Franklin County Board of Commissioners on Monday, May the 3rd, 2021 at 5:30 p.m. at the Franklin County Justice Center in Carnesville, Georgia. And we just note for the record that we have a quorum and all 5 commissioners are present. So we want to welcome everyone and thank you for coming tonight. At this time, we need to amend the agenda for the public hearing to add in item H, subdivision and land development ordinance. This item was advertised appropriately, but it was inadvertently omitted from the agendas that were sent out over the weekend. So commissioners, at this time, is there a motion to approve tonight's public hearing agenda with an amendment to add item H, subdivision and land development ordinance?
I'll make the motion to amend the agenda and add item H to our agenda for the land development ordinance.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Wester's made a motion to amend and approve tonight's public hearing agenda. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Franklin has seconded the motion. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to amend and approve tonight's public hearing agenda to add item H, subdivision and land development ordinance, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. The motion will carry 4-0 and the agenda is approved as amended. The purpose of this afternoon's public hearing is to receive public comments for or against proposed zoning applications that will be considered for action by the board at tonight's regular board meeting, which will follow this hearing. No action will be taken at this hearing, and all the parties are welcome to remain after the public hearing for the regular meeting itself. We have 7 items on the agenda for this hearing. After introducing each item, the planning director will present a description of the application as well as his recommendation and any recommendations of the Planning and Zoning Commission. We'll ask the applicant, if present, to come forward and speak first on behalf of their request. After the applicant has spoken, anyone wishing to speak either for or against the application can come forward, and we'll ask those in favor of to come first, and then we'll ask if anyone is not in favor of it or is opposed, and they can come up. Members of the public wishing to comment either for or against an application will be called individually, and they need to give their name and address to the clerk. Each person will have up to 5 minutes to speak. The clerk will use the timer, Ms. Finger, and it will be visible so that you can gauge your remarks and pace yourself. Questions may not be asked, and speakers may not yield unused time to another person. Members of the public are required to follow the same rules for decorum as the commissioners, and that includes being civil, using respectful discourse, and avoiding personal attacks. All comments should be directed to the chair, and members of the audience may not comment or interrupt when someone else is speaking. At the end of the public comments for each application, the applicant shall have the opportunity to make a summary statement or offer rebuttal concerning the proposed application, and the commissioners may ask the applicant questions at that time. Our first item is a conditional use permit for Stephen Brown, and that application has been withdrawn, so we'll move on to item B. This is a conditional use permit, home-based occupation for Mark Hamner, 1819 Pleasant Hill Circle, Martin, Georgia. He's filed an application for a conditional use permit for a home-based occupation to operate a meat and produce farm store on an approximately 1.67 acre tract of land located at 1819 Pleasant Hill Circle, further identified as tax parcel 0.051-062. So Mr. Delosier.
Yeah, good evening, gentlemen. So like you said, Mr. Hamner has applied for a conditional use permit for a home-based occupation. Their intention is to sell farm-raised beef and I think pork as well, and then have a produce that they produce at their farm that they want to sell. They want to sell on site. They have a home place that they cut the 1.67 acres out of a larger tract for the home-based occupation that they are still intending to use that home to live in. It is zoned ag intensive right now, and this type of operation is compatible with ag intensive zoning. The Planning Commission's recommendation for this application was to approve the application. Without any further questions, I'll turn it over to the Hamners.
Okay, Mr. Hamner, if you want to come up. Yes, sir, you can. You can come. And just, of course, we've got your name and address, so you don't have to do that.
I'm Will Hamner.
Okay, and just go over the kind of the project with us. Talk to us about it.
We just want to, we raise grass-fed beef and forest-raised pork. And we have it processed at one of two USDA inspected facilities, and it is frozen, what do you call it, vacuum packed, frozen, and we typically, now we sell a lot at online markets, and we sell at like the Stevens County Market and sometimes at the Livonia Market and so forth. And we'd like to be able to sell out of the home there at the farm, so people can come to where their food is raised, and it's just a matter of convenience for us and them, and we don't expect to have it open but a couple of days a week, and maybe 4 hours a day, thinking Wednesdays and Saturdays. We don't want to change the character or the complexion of our neighborhood, because we live there, and we want it to remain the same. And
yeah, one thing I would add is that so just this last week we got the we received the license from the State Department of Agriculture to operate the farm store.
y'all need to see that. Y'all want to see one?
We have a copy of it.
You can give Mr. Delosier at the end if you want to.
Okay.
That's fine.
That's kind of, we've sort of had parallel processes with the zoning and then the state, and that's so what this approves as far as the state inspection goes. What we're approved to do at this stage is just to sell frozen meat or fresh produce. But as far as the meat goes, it can't be taken out of a package or altered in any way, like cooked or cured. It just can only be frozen meat, and that's all we would be selling as far as meat goes. And also, we're not approved to sell any ready-to-eat foods.
Okay.
And we have a diagram. We also have a diagram I drew to show what the floor plan of the building is going to look like when we're finished with this. If anyone wants to see that.
Okay. We can, if you put those together, you can give them to me, and I'll pass them out to them so they can all look at it.
I'll keep the original, but
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
You tell them what the state.
We can.
we
We'll,
don't have extra copies of that.
We got one copy of that.
well, if you need that, we don't. If we need it, we can get you a copy.
Okay. That was this past week. We got that.
Pass that down. I'll pass it. Okay.
Any?
If y'all, we're gonna call for people to speak for or against, and then if you need to, you can make summary remarks, and we'll take questions.
Very well.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. At this time, is there anyone who wishes to speak in favor of Mr. Hamner's application? Anyone who would like to come up and speak? You're welcome to. Okay. Hearing none, is there anyone at this time who would like to speak against Mr. Hamner's application? You're welcome to come up. Anyone? Okay, that was easy. Commissioners, do you have questions for Mr. Hamner? Okay, we'll move on to the next item unless you have anything else to add? Okay. Okay, all right, thank you. All right, the next item on the agenda is a conditional use home-based occupation. Brendan Smith of 548 Normandy Trail, Livonia, Georgia, has filed an application for a conditional use permit for a home-based occupation to operate a landscape design business on an approximately 0.328 acre tract of land located at 548 Normandy Trail, further identified as tax parcel 070B-043. So, Mr. Delosier.
Yeah, so this is a pretty straightforward application as well. The present zoning of the tract of land is residential single family, which requires a conditional use permit for any home-based occupation. After discussing with the applicant and looking into it a little bit further, it really essentially what the applicant's going to be doing is using CAD and maybe a little bit of artistic renderings to develop landscape design, landscape architectural plans. It'll be essentially him sitting at a computer in a room in his house. But in order before we can issue him a business license, since it is owned residential single family, it does require a conditional use permit. I think this is a good example of something we talked about in the retreat about some things that might planning commission might go handle, but the planning commission had zero issues with it. They didn't. I don't think they even really had many questions for them, and their recommendation was to approve it.
Okay, all right, thank you, Mr. Delozier. Is Mr. Smith here?
Yep.
Come on up, Mr. Smith, and just talk to us about what you're going to do.
Mr. Delozier pretty much described it dead on. I've been doing landscape architecture work for about 30 years. Probably do most of my business out of my pickup truck rather than my computer. I'll do some design work, sketches, etc., and I do consulting also, which is always on site. No signage, nothing like that. Just simply needing a place to operate a business. Want to make sure you get the business license, do it properly.
Okay, all right, thank you. At this time, is there anyone who would like to comment in favor of Mr. Smith's application? You can come up. Okay, hearing none, would anyone like to comment against Mr. Smith's application? Come on, sir.
I just have a question.
This is only for comments, not really for
Okay.
questions, but start off if you'll give the clerk your name and address.
Terry Robertson, 64 Mountain View Drive. My concern, just having a third of an acre, will it, this opened up the county, because we're talking about zoning now to try to keep residential, and this sort of thing. What is that going to do to open up the county to somebody to come back and say, well, he's living on a third of an acre, why can't I have a business? When you have a business, the thing we're fighting now on our road is we got two people that have businesses. You got UPS, you got FedEx, you got special deliveries, you got mail coming with boxes, and they're flying up and down our roads that we can't maintain now. So that's
Okay, thank you, Mr. Roper. Would anyone else like to speak against the application? Okay, Mr. Smith, would you like to make any kind of rebuttal or summary comments?
Don't have any intention, again, no deliveries. Understand certainly the concern of businesses, what have you. Mine's pretty low key. Just design consulting services, want to get a business license to do it properly. That's it.
Okay, hang on a second. Commissioners, do you have questions for Mr. Smith?
Are your bids sent out via computer? Do you have people on site to review plans?
No employees, no reviewing plans, no customers to the site, no.
Okay.
Just simply, I work from my computer. I do all of my work on the customer's site.
Gotcha.
I'll do documentation at their location, come back, prepare, present at their location.
Do you have a current location outside of the house where?
Never have.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Smith. Okay, the next item on the agenda is a side yard setback and lot size variance. Martha Wilson of 5844 Vickery Street, Livonia, Georgia, has filed an application for a side yard setback and a lot size variance for a mobile home on an approximately 0.92 acre tract of land located at 101 Clarks Creek Road, Martin, Georgia, further identified as tax parcel 052-023. So, Mr. Delozier.
So you've got the site plan in front of you. Currently, this tract of land, it is zoned ag intensive, and there is allowability in our zoning ordinances for secondary residences in ag intensive parts of the county. This particular one does not meet those requirements for a secondary home, so that's why the lot size reduction is part of the variance. There is already a mobile home on site. It's going to be Miss Wilson's father lives on that mobile home. They are looking to place a second mobile home on that 0.92 acre tract of land. It does not meet the side yard setbacks required for a mobile home on that tract of land. The planning commission, I think they kind of came up with a good compromise on this. The intent from what the applicant has stated is that for them to place that mobile home on the tract of land to care for an ailing father. So what the planning commission recommended was to allow the mobile home that Miss Wilson's wanted to place on the tract of land But when the occupant of the current mobile home is no longer occupying that mobile home for one reason or another, that mobile home be removed from the property and no more structures are allowed to be on that property. So that is the Planning Commission's recommendation, is to approve with that condition.
Okay, all right, thank you. Is Ms. Wilson here? Come on up, Ms. Wilson. If you'll just tell us about what you're asking us to do.
Okay, what I want to do is I want to put my double wide on the property of my daddy, where my daddy lives. My daddy's 83 years old. In January, he fell and broke his hip and broke his arm. And he was trying to take care of his wife, who was 77, who had dementia. And we started all this process in March because I was trying to get moved up there then and be able to help take care of her and him at the same time. Since then, we have had to put my stepmom in the nursing home because Daddy was not able to take care of her because her dementia had progressed even more. And now, with Daddy being 83 years old, and now he's up there by himself. All I'm trying to do is put my mobile home back up there where I had a mobile home. I had 2 mobile homes up there. I had my single wide, and then Daddy had a little single wide. And I had to move the single wides off the property. I had lived in the big single wide, and my son lived in the smaller single wide. So then when I bought my house in town at 5844 Beaker Street, then my son moved into my single wide. In April of last year, he committed suicide. And he committed suicide in the single wide trailer that I had to move off. So there's no way that I could have moved back into it. I couldn't do it. So I've already paid to have the 2 single wides moved off of the property. And then what I was wanting to do was put a double wide on the property to be able there. And all I'm doing is I'm improving the property. I'm doing nothing to, I'm getting the older stuff off and putting new on. And I'm trying to improve the property. And I'm trying to take care of my daddy and do things that need to be done with him. And I understand all the circumstances, and I know that, but I'm just asking that y'all will let me put my double wide on there because I've already bought it. It's already purchased. It's already sitting in Athens on the lot, ready to be brought off. My house sold April the 26th. I closed on my house, so I don't have a house right now. I'm waiting to get this permit to be able to set up a mobile home to be able to move into it. Is what I'm doing.
All right.
And that's
Okay. Well, let us call for comments, and if we need to, we'll bring you back up. Okay. Is there anyone here tonight who wants to speak in favor of Ms. Wilson's application? Come on up. If you will, just give your name and address to the clerk.
Mark Smith, 234 Andalusian Trail, Anderson, South Carolina.
Thank you.
So I am Martha's cousin, and I actually own the property that's adjacent to hers. It's kind of the funky looking shape. It is a large tract of land. It was my grandmother's. She passed away. It was passed on to my parents, and it's just kind of been split up between myself and my sister. My dad, he took a piece back in the back when Highway 17 was expanded. So anyway, I just wanted to come and say I have zero issues with the side variance for sure. With her putting a double wide versus the 2 single wides, it's improving the look of the property. As a family member, for her to be able to do what's right to honor my grandmother, I want to make sure y'all know that it's good with me. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Would anyone else like to speak in favor of Ms. Wilson's application? Okay. Would anybody like to come up and speak against the application? Anyone have objections? Okay. Ms. Smith, do you have anything? Ms. Wilson, do you have anything else you want to add? Commissioners, if you have questions, we can bring her up.
I just did have one question.
Come back up for just a minute, please.
The existing mobile home that your father's in,
yes, sir.
about how old is that one, just out of curiosity?
It was. I think he bought it in 1987, 1990, whatever. But it's a double wide. It is completely set up. I mean, he keeps it maintained all the time. It has a carport built on it. You know, everything. And we try to keep everything up for Daddy and make sure that everything's kept good. you know, because that's how old it is.
Does it have a ramp access for him to get up and into the house?
Well, off of that carport, it's only one little small step because it's got an indoor. So yeah, he can get in and out of it.
That was it. Thank you.
So before there was a double wide and two single wides,
Yes, sir.
and you move the two single wides and you want to put a double wide in their place. Are there any other residences on that property?
Just Daddy.
I mean houses or homes or anything.
No, Daddy's
Okay.
double wide is here.
Okay, no other house.
No.
Okay.
Because Daddy had my single wide and then the little green trailer, and he had rented them out years back. So there had been 3 residents on that property.
Right.
And then I was in one, and my son was in one, and then Daddy was in one. Well, then when I moved town, then Stephen moved into mine. And then, and the little one was an older trailer. So see, it needed to be moved off anyway. So I had paid both of those moved off the property and gone. You know.
Right.
So now I've already got the land cleared off, and it's been scraped with the, where they scraped the land and made it be level to put the double wide on. Not that it was, they got all the vegetation off of it. That's what I had to do.
Okay.
So I've done that.
Commissioners, any of you have additional questions? Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, the next item on the agenda is a rear yard setbacks variance. Alan Mitchell of 376 Beatty Road, Martin, Georgia, has filed an application for a rear yard setback variance for a stack house on an approximately 13.8 acre tract of land located at 1755 Freeman Road, further identified as tax parcel 042-041. It's Mr. Delosier.
Yes, so this is, like I said, Alan Mitchell. He's applying for a stack house. This tract of land where these chicken houses were built, it obviously does not meet any of our current zoning regulations. However, the USDA is making a strong push to try to have a stack house for every poultry operation. It's a better way to manage the litter that comes out of these chicken houses. So he's getting the approval from the USDA, but he will need a variance for a rear yard setback variance. Our current zoning regulations call out a 200-foot setback from all property lines. He can meet all those except for one, and the one that he can't meet, he's gonna need it to be from a 200-foot to a 52-foot setback. The property owner behind him has stated that he doesn't have a problem with it. Right now, that tract of land is it's an undeveloped raw piece of land. So the Planning Commission's recommendation was to approve it. We didn't hear any opposition towards it during our public hearing, and I haven't heard any since that public hearing.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Mitchell, come on up and talk to us about your stack house.
Good afternoon. Mr.
Afternoon.
Delosier did a real good job. I don't know if you have any other questions. I do have a letter from Mr. Chapman stating that it was okay to build a stack house within the variance on his property. So
Okay. Do we have a copy of that?
Yeah, you emailed it.
I did.
Okay. All right. So as long as we have it on file.
Yep.
Good.
That property out, chicken houses were built in the early 90s. Pretty much the pit space has been used up on that small tract, and so there's really that's really the only option we got right now, is to build a stack house. And I've got the approval. We haven't got the final paperwork yet from the USDA, but
Okay.
things should be a go if y'all will approve the variance on it. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Is there anyone here who would like to speak in favor of Mr. Mitchell's application? Okay. Is anyone here who would like to speak against Mr. Mitchell's application? Okay. Commissioners, do you have questions for Mr. Mitchell?
I did have a question for Mr. Delosier.
Oh, okay.
I know that it had been a discussion with planning and zoning at some point to update zoning specifically around stack houses. Have y'all had any
Yeah,
more
we
conversations
kind of went
around
back
that?
and forth on that. I think we've decided that where we're at currently with it, with the setbacks and stack houses, that we're pretty comfortable with where they are currently.
And so essentially, they meet the same setback requirements as chicken houses?
They're a little bit different. Stack houses are a little bit different than chicken houses. So stack houses is just a straight, flat, 200 foot from all property lines.
Okay.
Chicken houses it depends on how close the nearest house is to you.
Right.
So if you have no houses around you, it is 200 foot. If an adjoining property has a house within 100 foot of that property line, that setback goes to 300 foot. And then you've also got to ensure you maintain a 600 foot setback from the exhaust end of the chicken houses to the nearest residents of adjoining property owners. So it is a little bit different. Like he's saying, the stack house he's intending to build is also going to be a composter. It's that small tract of land, you can't dig any more chicken pits. So this will be a way for him to not only manage the litter, but to also dispose of the dead. But we kind of went back and forth on it, but I think we decided we're comfortable with the 200 foot setback for stack houses.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. All right, the next item on the public hearing is a rezone application. Aubrey Lunsford of 2234 Carytown Road, Royston, Georgia, has filed an application to rezone from ag intensive to residential single family for a proposed 50 lot subdivision on approximately 120.35 acre tract of land located at the intersection of Highway 106 and Harrison Bridge Road, further identified as tax parcel 036-033. So Mr. Delozier.
So Mr. Lunsford has the intention of, let me change this so you can look at this. That track right there, that's at the corner of 106 and Harrison Bridge. He's looking to rezone it from ag intensive to residential single family with the intentions of putting in a 50 lot subdivision, single family residential homes. So he is going to need to rezone. It's going to be 120.35 acres. You've got in front of you the proposed layout of the subdivision. He does have the intentions of building the roads and building those roads to county standards and having them become county adopted roads. Currently, the site plan or the preliminary plat as it's laid out does meet all zoning regulations and all criteria in our current zoning regulations. The Planning Commission reviewed it. They didn't have much of an issue with it. It is right there. That back property line, you can see it kind of butts up to the Franklin County wastewater plant. That back property line is the city limit to Carnesville/Franklin County line right there. So this is an appropriate place for, new single family residential developments. That's where a lot of, your single family developments like to be centered is around the cities and, right outside the more developed areas of the county. So the Planning Commission reviewed it. They did not have an issue with what was presented, and they recommend approving it.
Okay. All right. Mr. Lunsford, come on up. Good.
Scott covered most everything except the 2.5 acres on the corner of 106 and Harrison Bridge that I would like to rezone to commercial general for later development, maybe a convenience store or something down the road.
I think that was the next item.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I?
It is. Can we combine?
We can combine,
Are you
yeah.
you have any objections if we combine
No,
those? Okay. The other item was to, like he said, to take a small section of that land on the corner and rezone it to commercial general. And you plan to develop that?
At a later.
Okay. All right. Let me call. Is there anyone here who would like to comment either in favor of, first in favor of this rezone request? And we're looking at two different rezone requests. One is from ag intensive to residential single family for the bulk of that 120 acres. And then one is to take a small part, 2.53 acre tract, and rezone it to commercial general. So anyone want to speak in favor of those two applications? Anyone want to speak against those two applications? Come up. Okay. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Mr. Lunsford this time?
What
Come on up, Aubrey, and ask questions.
Yeah,
Go
do you
ahead.
have any idea square footage wise or what type of house you're planning on putting on that, those tracks?
Somewhere in the 1,600 square foot,
Okay.
3-bedroom, possibly some 4-bedroom, but we're waiting on all the soil roads and stuff. The soil perk test to get back.
Okay.
Soon we'll have it, we'll know.
Gotcha. And then the roads you're putting in, are they, I might have overheard it, did you say current road?
No, there's no roads currently in there, but he will, in the development process, will develop those roads.
Okay, gotcha.
Will the road be like curb and all that, or they just be straight asphalt?
That'll be to the county specs now.
And do you have any idea of the intended use for that commercial lot, or is it just you're wanting to go ahead and kind of get ahead of the game on rezoning it?
It's maybe a location for a convenience store down the road. That's what we're thinking, but I don't have a plan right now.
What about, were there conditions that planning and zoning recommended on the second piece? Or, no, I'm sorry, on the first
On
part.
the first piece, the only thing was, which is, we don't really specifically call it out in ours, but it was to make sure that before we approve this plat, that all the soils come back good for each lot.
So is that what, so we're not actually doing the plat tonight?
So it would be an approval of the preliminary plat.
Okay.
So before we approve the final plat, we would make sure the soils are good and make sure nothing has to drastically change based upon the results of the perk test. If that doesn't happen, then we can approve the final plat.
So does that come back before the board, or is that something planning staff can do?
Once we approve the preliminary plat and we see that the final plat matches the preliminary plat and the site matches to what's on that preliminary plat, then we can, as a staff, approve that final plat.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have any other questions?
You estimated additional county water resources for like fire, anything like that?
So he has actually already signed a water line extension agreement with the county.
Okay.
He's going to have to do, there will be some water line improvements to be done, but that will be done at the cost of the developer.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Mr. Commissioner. Okay. We kind of combined items F and G, so we're going to move on to item H. This is the subdivision and land development ordinance. So I'm going to ask Mr. Delozier to come up and talk to us about that.
So this is it's been a long work. We started this process really around August of last year. We brought in, it was myself, John Phillips, county engineer. We had Bob White, our public works director, Nick Johnson, our road superintendent, and we brought in Jerry White to help the county update our current subdivision and land development regulations. The way this is written and the intent of this one is it's written in a manner that we can, once we get to the point where we have a UDC written, we've left a lot of chapters blank. Your normal chapters that you would see in a UDC were left blank for further use. So the intent is to eventually morph this into a unified development code, which would, we would have zoning regulations morphed into this. We'd have all of our, like mobile home ordinances, all that stuff would be kind of plugged into this one document, this one development code for the county. There's been some fundamental issues with what we currently have on the books as far as we don't have anything that specifically calls out how like water lines are laid out, sewer lines would be laid out. There's some updates to what the road specs, just to get in line with what current GDOT specs are, that sort of stuff. Get in line with what the current state regulations are and a lot of stuff. So we sat down, we went through this thing for a couple months and have refined. This is the final product. I would like to give Mr. Jerry White a chance to come up here and speak. He's a much smarter man than I am on a lot of this stuff. He's doing this probably longer than I've been alive. So I would like Mr. White to come up here and kind of present from his angle what he helped us do.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Watts.
Thank you, Scott. Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Jerry White. I'm in Alpharetta, Georgia. Thank you for having me this evening. We're here to present, if needed, the subdivision and land development ordinance that's on your agenda for public hearing tonight. And a little bit of background, not to belabor it, but you have a set of subdivision regulations now, but they're pretty antiquated, and as you all know, the path of development is coming out this way pretty rapidly primarily along 85. And so what it does is, as Scott said, it modernizes, brings your code up to speed in terms of state law changes. It provides standards, including technical drawings that the county engineer himself prepared and we talked about. And it does address the development process in greater detail than you have right now, where the process of obtaining a development permit and what you have to follow to obtain that permit and so forth. So that's, not to belabor it, but that's the subject matter of the ordinance, and I'll be glad to answer any kind of questions that the commissioners have if you have any.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have questions about the proposed ordinance at this time? Okay. Thank you for coming tonight. Mr. Delosier, do you have anything else to add on that?
No, unless you'll have any questions.
Okay. At this time, we're going to, without objection, we're going to adjourn the public hearing, and in just a minute, we'll start the regular board meeting. Normally, it would start at 6 unless our public hearings carry over, and tonight we had a lot more than we usually have on our agenda. So at this time, we're adjourned. All right, at this time, we're going to call to order the regular board meeting of the Franklin County Board of Commissioners on Monday, May the 3rd, 2021 at 6:10 p.m. at the Franklin County Justice Center in Carnesville, Georgia. And again, we note for the record that we have a quorum consisting of all 5 commissioners present for tonight's meeting. I want to welcome everyone and thank you for joining us this evening. At this time, Commissioner Swales is going to give an invocation. Afterwards, please remain standing and join us in the pledge. So please stand.
Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for an opportunity to come together to serve this county, Lord. I just pray that you grant us some wisdom tonight. Help us to seek truth, to make the wise decision, and to remember, again, it's all about you and it's all about service. We love you, Lord. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. This time we need to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting, but we need to make an amendment and add item 7G2, subdivision and land development ordinance, to follow after item 7G. This item was advertised appropriately as in the public hearing, but it was inadvertently left off of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting with an amendment adding item 7G2, subdivision and land development ordinance?
I'll make a motion to amend the agenda to add item G2, the subdivision and land development ordinance.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Wester has made the motion to approve the agenda with the amendment adding item 7G2. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Foster has seconded the motion. All in favor of the motion to approve tonight's agenda as amended, please signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. The motion will carry 4-0, and tonight's agenda is approved as amended. The next item on the agenda is a personnel report. So at this time, I'm going to ask our county manager, Mr. Turner, to give us a personnel report, if there is one.
Thank you. So personnel, we talked about last week that we were looking at the marshal and also for the maintenance, the assistant maintenance tech. So we will be conducting interviews over.
Okay. That all? All right. Thank you. Any questions, commissioners? All right. The next item on the agenda is approval of minutes. And these are the prior meeting minutes. Public hearing of March the 1st, 2021. Regular board meeting of March the 1st, 2021. A special called meeting on March the 12th, 2021. A special called joint meeting with Hart County on March the 25th, 2021. A work session on March the 30th, 2021. A special called meeting on April the 6th, 2021. A board retreat on April the 14th, 2021, and a work session on April the 27th, 2021. Normally we don't have quite this many, but our meeting for April, our regular meeting was canceled, so we have a little bit of a backlog. All commissioners have been provided with a copy of the draft minutes for these prior meetings. Do any of you know of corrections that need to be made? Okay. Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the prior meeting minutes as presented?
I'll make a motion to approve the prior meeting minutes.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Foster's made the motion to approve the prior meeting minutes as presented. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Commissioner Swell seconds the motion. Is there any discussion before we vote? Okay, hearing none. All in favor of the motion to approve the prior meeting minutes as presented, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. The motion will carry 4-0, and the prior meeting minutes are approved as presented. There were quite a few of those. At this time, we're going to open the meeting for public comment. During this portion of the meeting, any member of the public may speak on any topic of concern they would like to address to the board. Because the board may not be able to prepare for questions and topics ahead of time, this is primarily a comment section. If you have questions the board can't answer tonight because we don't know the answers right offhand or time doesn't permit, we're going to ask that you write those down, give those to the clerk, Ms. Finger, and then someone will try to get back to you within a few days to try and address those concerns. Please understand that the board will not be able to engage in any discussion about any pending planning and zoning items. It's very important that all planning and zoning items be handled in the meetings that have been specifically set aside for those cases or those issues, so that all applicants and petitioners have opportunity to be present and are given due process. When you come up to the podium in just a moment, we want you to begin by giving your name and address to the clerk. In order to facilitate the meeting and allow everyone who wants an opportunity to speak, each person must limit their comments to 5 minutes or less. Each person may speak once, and you may not yield unused time to another person. The clerk will have a timer so that you can keep track of how much time you have left and adjust your remarks accordingly. Members of the public have to follow the same rules of decorum that each of the commissioners must follow, and that means respectful civil discourse and avoiding any personal attacks. All comments should be addressed to the chair, and members of the public may not interrupt while someone else is speaking. So at this time, does anyone have a public comment? If you'll just raise your hand, we'll recognize you one by one and you can come up. Any public comments that anyone would like to make tonight?
You're going to call the people that are on the agenda.
Yeah, this is separate from people who have a specific agenda item. That's right. Anyone else like to make a public comment? Okay. Hearing no public comments, we'll move on to the next. The first item under 7 items for discussion, 7A, is a conditional use permit by Stephen Brown. And as we noted earlier in the public hearing, that application was withdrawn. The next item, 7B, is a conditional use permit home-based occupation for Mark Camner of 1819 Pleasant Hill Circle, Martin, Georgia. He's filed an application for a conditional use permit for a home-based occupation to operate a meat and produce farm store on an approximately 1.67 acre tract of land located at 1819 Pleasant Hill Circle, further identified as tax parcel 051-062. Mr. Delozier, if you'll just come up and briefly re-summarize that. We've heard a lot of them, and then we'll ask questions and go from there.
So the first one would be Mr. Hammond. They are wanting to do a farm store as a home-based occupation, selling farm-raised meats and farm-raised produce. It's in an ag-intensive zoning. The Planning Commission's recommendation was to approve.
Commissioners, do you have any questions for Mr. Delozier? And there were no conditions that planning and zoning.
There were no conditions.
Okay.
Planning and zoning attached. No.
Any questions? Okay, hearing none, is there a motion to act on the application for a conditional use permit for Mark Camner to operate a home-based farm store?
Make a motion that we approve the applicant's request for conditional use permit to a home-based occupation to operate a meat and produce farm store.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Swells has made the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Commissioner Foster seconded the motion. Any discussion? Okay. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to approve the application for a conditional use permit for Mark Camner to operate a home-based farm store at 1819 Pleasant Hill Circle, Martin, Georgia, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion will carry 4-0, and the application for conditional use permit for Mark Hamner is approved. All right, the next item, C, is a conditional use permit, home-based occupation. Brendan Smith, 548 Normandy Trail, Livonia, Georgia, has filed an application for a conditional use permit for a home-based occupation to operate a landscape design business on an approximately 0.328 acre tract of land located at 548 Normandy Trail and further identified as tax parcel 070B-043. Mr. Delozer.
Yeah, so this is it's a home-based occupation as well. It'll be a conditional use permit since it is a residential single-family zone tract of land. As stated in the public hearing, there's no intentions of adding any kind of traffic signs. It's going to be Mr. Smith pretty much getting and receiving mail and doing some of his computer-based work, at his house. In order for him to get a business license, it is a conditional use permit because of the way it's zoned. The Planning Commission recommended approving the application.
Any conditions?
No conditions on this one.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have any questions? Okay. Hearing none, is there a motion to act on this application for a conditional use permit for Brendan Smith to operate a home-based landscape design business at 548 Normandy Trail, Livonia?
I'll make a motion that we approve Mr. Smith's application for conditional use permit for home-based occupation.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Swells has made the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Wester has seconded the motion. Is there any discussion? Okay. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to approve the conditional use permit for Brendan Smith to operate a home-based landscape design business at 548 Normandy Trail, Livonia, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion will carry 4-0, and the conditional use permit for Brendan Smith is approved. All right, the next item, 7D, is a side yard setback and lot size variance from Martha Wilson, 5844 Vickery Street, Livonia, Georgia, has filed an application for a side yard setback and a lot size variance for a mobile home on an approximately 0.92 acre tract of land located at 101 Clarks Creek Road, Martin, Georgia, and further identified as tax parcel 052-023.
So again, as you heard in the public hearing, Ms. Wilson has a aging father that she wants to take care of. It does not meet really any current zoning criteria for placing this double wide on this tract of land. You would generally need about 2 acres to make that happen, to place 2 residents on a single tract of land. It does not meet the side setbacks. However, the Planning Commission did review it. There was a lot of discussion on this one in our last meeting. I think they came up with a pretty good compromise, and it was to approve the application for the variance with the condition that when the occupant of the current mobile home that's on the resident, which would be Ms. Wilson's father, when he is no longer occupying that mobile home for one reason or another, that mobile home be removed and that no other residences are allowed to be placed on that home, on that tract of land, other than the one that Ms. Wilson will be living in at that time.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have questions?
Ms. Wilson, are you agreeable to that condition?
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Okay. So just to clarify, the condition is once the occupant of the mobile home that is currently on the property, and that would be your father, is no longer occupying that mobile home would be removed and no other homes would be allowed.
Correct.
Okay. Is there a motion at this time to take action on this variance request from Martha Wilson?
I'll make the motion that we grant the request with the mentioned conditions.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Foster has made a motion that we approve the variance with the conditions stipulated by planning and zoning. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Swells has seconded the motion. Is there any further discussion?
I just want to say good job by the Planning and Zoning Commission to come up with a way to work this out. In the world we live in, government pretty much is looked at as not having a heart.
Right.
I think y'all have completely proved that wrong. So thank y'all for your hard work with that.
I'll pass it along. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Ms. Wilson, I did want you to know that the Rotary Club of Franklin County offers free ramps for people in need of elderly assistance getting in and out. The reason I asked you about the house was because of that. So if you need to, I can get you some information on that as well.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, any other questions? All right, or discussion, rather? All in favor of this motion to grant a variance for the side yard setback and lot size for Martha Wilson with the conditions stipulated by planning and zoning, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion will carry 4-0, and the side yard setback and lot size variance for Martha Wilson is approved. Okay, the next item is a rear yard setback variance. Alan Mitchell, 376 Beatty Road, Martin, Georgia, has filed an application for a rear yard setback variance for a stack house on an approximately 13.8 acre tract of land located at 1755 Freeman Road and further identified as tax parcel 042-041.
Yes, so on this one, he's got 13.8 acres, which is a tight space for 4 chicken houses and a stack house. However, the stack house that he's proposing to build will also be used for disposal of dead birds as a composter. And that is, again, that's kind of the way that the USDA is wanting poultry operations to go to now. Trying to keep the dead birds out of the ground, trying to keep the litter from, being piled up outside and being washed into ditches and streams and adjoining properties. So it is a pretty significant variance, but I believe the Planning Commission got it right by recommending to approve it because it is going to help. It's going to help more. It's going to hinder anything.
Okay. And any conditions?
There was no conditions on this one. No.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have questions? Any? Okay, hearing none. Is there a motion to act on this application for a rear yard setback variance for Alan Mitchell to build a stack house at 1755 Freeman Road?
I'll make the motion, Mr. Chairman, that we approve the rear yard setback for Mr. Mitchell to build this stack house.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Wester has made a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Commissioner Swells has made the motion or has seconded the motion. Is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor of the motion to approve the variance for Alan Mitchell to build a stack house at 1755 Freeman Road, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion will carry 4-0, and the variance for Alan Mitchell is approved. All right, the next item is the rezone application, and this is Aubrey Lunsford, 2234 Carytown Road, Royston, Georgia, has filed an application to rezone from ag intensive to residential single family for a proposed 50-lot subdivision on approximately 120.35 acre tract of land located at the intersection of Highway 106 and Harrison Bridge Road and further identified as tax parcel 036-033. And I know he has two, but for the voting, we need to keep these separate. So
yeah, the first one from Mr. Lunsford is going to be a rezoning to residential single family, as stated, to develop a 50-lot subdivision. Those lots vary in size from just over an acre to about 11 acres. He's going to put a road in. He's going to put 3 roads in, actually. Those roads will be built to county specs. County will inspect. County will recommend to y'all whether or not to adopt those roads. And there is a housing shortage right now in Franklin County. I think this would help address part of that issue. And the Planning Commission recommended approving this rezoning and approving the preliminary plat pending an approved soil report from.
Commissioners, do you have questions? Any other questions? Okay. And the condition, again, is they're going to approve pending a certified soil report showing that the individual lots are able to support septic systems.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. At this time, is there a motion to approve this application for a rezone from AI to residential single family for 120.35 acres at Highway 106 and Harrison Bridge Road for a proposed 50-lot subdivision for Aubrey Lunsford with the conditions as stipulated by planning and zoning?
Make a motion that we approve Mr. Lunsford's request to rezone from AI to residential single family. The proposed tracts at the intersection of Highway 106 and Harrison Bridge Road.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Swales has made the motion to approve, and that's with the conditions.
With the conditions stated by the planning and zoning.
Okay, and that's approved with the conditions stated by planning and zoning. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Franklin has seconded the motion. Is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion to approve the application for a rezone from AI to residential single family for 120.35 acres at Highway 106 and Harrison Bridge Road for proposed 50-lot subdivision for Aubrey Lunsford with the conditions stipulated by planning and zoning, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion will carry 4-0, and the application for the rezone for the subdivision for Aubrey Lunsford is approved. All right, the second part of this is a rezone application. Aubrey Lunsford, 2234 Carytown Road, Royston, Georgia, has filed an application to rezone from ag intensive to commercial general an approximately 2.53 acre tract of land located at the intersection of Highway 106 and Harrison Bridge Road, further identified as tax parcel 036-033.
So this is Mr. Lunsford, the same tract of land. He'll be cutting off 2.53 acres to rezone to commercial general. It'll be actually on the corner of Harrison Bridge and 106. Mr. Lunsford has stated, when we talked to him and when the planning commission talked to him, he's kind of thinking the convenience store, gas station, that sort of thing, to be put right there at that intersection. Is why he's wanting to be rezoned to commercial general. That location is not a bad location. It's a big enough, it's a large enough lot that he can still meet setback requirements, buffer and residential zone. There'll be room to put any necessary buffers in place and still be able to have a functioning development on that corner, whatever it is he chooses to have. So the planning commission did recommend approving that rezoning as well.
Any conditions?
There was no conditions on that one.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have questions?
Generally, when commercial, development comes before you guys, they have a plan in place, right? I mean, they say this is what we're going to put, and this is what it's going to look like, and these are what the setbacks are going to be.
Well,
before it's considered for approval.
Generally we have seen that there is a couple different methods of doing that. It is not uncommon to see somebody rezone something for planned future development without having an actual plan in place. There'll be real estate agents like to do that a lot. If they've got a prime piece of real estate that would probably bring more money as a commercial zone to attract different customers, different clientele group. What we have seen typically in the past is, yes, it's somebody that's coming in with a specific plan, specific purpose. They know what they want to do. They know how they want to do it. But it's not uncommon to see a request done.
Can I make it? I get the idea of future use, but we've had issues already in the county where something has kind of been purchased and then they put up LP tanks,
right.
And they're not doing what they said they would do with buffers and things like that. So I think it might be worth knowing exactly what's going in before we.
Would a development like that, would it have to come back with like a conditional use permit in that location?
It depends. So if it's called out as a permitted use in commercial general zoning, it would not have to come back. If it is not specifically called out as a permitted use, and obviously not a prohibited use, it would fall under a conditional use permit in general. A convenience store, what he's saying, he's got his mind, would be a permitted use.
So what about with gas tanks?
That would be a conditional use permit, because we don't call out commercial propane operations.
So that would fit the category then, commercial general.
It would. That would be the appropriate category for something like that.
So then you have an issue with gas being located by.
Well, it would still be a conditional use. It would still be a conditional use permit. That would be
okay.
Like a gas station or a convenience store. You're talking like.
I'm just trying to think of all the scenarios
gas
possible.
Or something, having two 5,000 gallon tanks right there. Now, yeah, that would be a conditional use permit.
So it would have to come back for us?
It would still have to come back for the board.
Gotcha.
For us to rezone this, does that section have to already be platted off? I mean, is it platted off?
It's on that site plan, that preliminary plat, it does show that 2.53 acres as separate from the residential single family zone.
Right. Okay. Other questions,
Can we
Commissioner?
put the condition on it? They have to come before us before we approve it. Can we approve it with the condition they come back before the board on
Well,
what
you-
actually it's going to be?
Well, we already have specially called out, allowable uses, so to speak, for commercial general. If you're concerned about what the commercial general would be, the correct action would be to deny the commercial general rezoning, which would then force him to, it would be zoned AI is what it would be zoned now. So if he wanted to put anything there, it would, no matter what it is, it would force him to come back through as a rezoning to commercial general once he has a specific plan. in
Specific
place.
use. Commissioner, any other? Okay. Well, if there's no more discussion, is there a motion at this time to take action on this application for a rezone of 2.53 acres at 106 and Harrison Bridge Road from AI to CG Commercial General for Aubrey Lunsford?
I make a motion that we deny the application until the actual understood commercial entity is presented.
Okay. Commissioner Swales has made a motion to deny this request. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second it.
Okay. Commissioner Foster has seconded the motion to deny the request. Any further discussion?
What else could go there? I mean, that falls in commercial. I mean,
Should have brought my other folder with me. It's designed, commercial general is more light use. If you think like banks, restaurants, gas stations, retail stores, that sort of use. That list, I don't have it off the top of my head, but that's what our commercial general district is kind of designed for. Is more the retail, more the having customers come in and out of the store, that sort of thing. It's not designed for an industrial type use, manufacturing or warehouse. None of that would be allowed in commercial.
Any other? Any discussion?
now what is that going? If this is denied, what's that going to do to this plat that he's got presented?
So it wouldn't affect it much. It really wouldn't affect it at all because the lots are carved up for the subdivision. And if you look at it, it shows. I forget how he words it.
So it'll just leave that.
It'll just leave that little block AI because how he worded on this was proposed future commercial lot of 2.53 acres. So the rest of that subdivision would still, that rest of that plat would be fine because it would still, whether it's approved or not, it's still going to be 2.53 acres right there in the corner.
Where's Mr. Lunsford at?
Yeah.
Oh, he left. Okay. All right. Did he in his application indicate any time frame for when?
He did not.
For the subdivision versus commercial development.
For the subdivision, he's going to get started on it, pretty quick if he gets approved. For the commercial,
I guess, why are we jumping the cart before the horse? I mean, typically there is a proposal, and then also planning and zoning typically says, well, we need this type of buffer, or we need to. Right. Why would we just jump ahead? And
I understand your concerns. I think it sounded like, he didn't specify, but.
I know what he told me. We got another item on our agenda about some survey results, and if that gets approved later, his thought process is if he can get ahead of potentially something else coming to the county that's not allowed right now, that would be allowed. He could already have something in sight that he could build and develop.
That's not allowed in the county right now?
No, the alcohol sales. Mm-hmm. He's thinking if that were to, what he told me is if it were to carry on and it would be approved in the county, he would have a site already ready that he could develop as a convenience store.
Good.
That's what his thought process is. He hadn't said anything about any other kind of business. It's been convenience store is what he said. But It has not been a formal proposal. That's not been, that's not been stated.
One other option would be to table this item until the next meeting and let him explain in a little more detail if he's here. That's an option. But somebody would have to make that motion. That motion would take precedence over your motion. But otherwise, we'll vote. If there is no motion to postpone, we will vote on the main
The
motion.
convenience store is what he said in the public hearing for the planning commission. But again, he hadn't had any, he has not submitted any formal development plan for a convenience store. And it would be, I'm sure it'd be at least a year before we'd even be ready to touch that.
So there's no rush then, really.
Right.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay. It's time to vote. All in favor of the motion to deny the rezone application for Aubrey Lunsford for 2.53 acres at Highway 106 and Harrison Bridge from AI to commercial general. All in favor, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. The motion will carry 4-0, and the application for a rezone of 2.53 acres at Highway 106 and Harrison Bridge Road from AI to CG is denied. All right, the next item on tonight's agenda is the subdivision and land development ordinance. So, Mr. Lozier, you want to?
So again, this is going to be an update and a revision to what we currently have for subdivision regulations, and also addresses a fundamental weakness that we have, that we don't have an actual land development process, so to speak. We've got subdivision regulations, but we don't. If we were to have some big commercial development come in, we don't have the actual development standards and regulations now. We're just kind of addressing those one at a time. This would put a standard, uniform process, regulations, criteria. John Phillips, he has gone through and he's made standard drawings that stuff would have to be in compliance with before we allow subdivisions and or developments in the county. Again, it's been in works probably since August. Is when we really first got started with this project, and we had the help of a very smart individual help us write this. And currently, the staff has been involved. Is really want to get adopted because it's going to help us do our job, and it also lays out the fundamental groundwork for a future UDC that would help really update everything in the county, help us prepare for the growth that we're seeing and that's going to be inevitable in the next coming years.
Did the planning and zoning, do they recommend that we approve, we adopt? Tell just for an example, Mr. Lunsford just had a 50-lot subdivision approved. How would this ordinance affect his approval process?
Well, it's going to require
what kind of impact?
Yeah, it's going to require a little more work on his end as far as detailing how he's going to lay out his roads, and that's going to be prior to. It's going to detail how he's going to map out his water lines. It's going to map out how the houses or how the lots are laid out and how access to roads are granted. It kind of addresses some issues with flag lots, panhandle lots, which those type of things that they get complicated inside subdivisions. When you have a flag lot, which is really when you just have like a very narrow strip of land, and then a big lot that could go behind other things. It's a bad way to break up land. It also addresses like security bonds, performance bonds. So while we don't require those currently, if you do, say you put in a road or you put in a development of some kind on a road specifically, there'll be a performance bond that's going to be required by the county prior to adopting that road. So it'd be on the developer for the first year or so that he's in charge of all maintenance. The county would adopt that road, but still with a performance bond, a maintenance bond at that point. So say we adopted the road and we've got a maintenance bond that's good for a year. If anything happens to that road within that first year, that there's going to be, we're going to inspect it. We're going to do everything we can to make sure it's done right. But if something were to happen that we didn't know, then it gives us the ability to cash in that bond to fix that road without having to dip into our money.
How about the development itself of the houses? What
we
level
did-
of bond
we
would he be required?
What's that one?
What level of bond would he have had to post for?
It's gonna be per linear foot of the road. So you look at what the
Okay.
road is, and it's gonna be based on what that road is.
So it's just the bond issue would be concerning the roads.
Yeah, well, the bond would cover multiple
Aspects of it.
of the development. It's gonna depend on what type of development it is.
How about costs? What kind of costs would he incur as a developer compared to what he did this go around? I mean, in general
So
terms.
it would increase, that there'd be a little more cost on the engineering side, which is necessary to make sure that we're protecting the city, living in that development. The bond's gonna be the biggest cost, but if nothing happens with that bond is canceled to the developer.
Are we going to adopt a fee schedule?
So we do have a fee schedule that we're working on right now. We got a little bit left to work out on that. My recommendation would be if we're going to adopt this, have an effective date of June 8th. And then that will give time for y'all to also review the fee schedule. It should cover, the development permit itself. It's going to be based on like per lot, on subdivisions. There's review processes and all kinds of stuff, but the fee schedule, it would give y'all time to review it and time to approve it at the June 7th Board of Commissioners meeting. That way, an effective date of June 8th, we would have the development ordinance and the fee schedule already in place before we start.
How does Bureau Veritas and our inspections program, how does that change in relation to a development like this?
This doesn't affect the building inspections process. Bureau Veritas is once he pulls a building permit for the first house, that's when Bureau Veritas gets involved.
Okay.
That's when the building inspectors get involved. Now, Bureau Veritas does have the ability to assist the county in doing inspections for stuff like roads, parking lots, sewer lines, water lines. They have personnel on staff that can.
Can we do that in-house too?
But we can't do that now.
Okay.
So if it was one of those things where we got busy enough that we need to have somebody supplement us, we do have that resource available as well. But this does not affect the building inspection process.
So you're recommending we adopt this with an effective date of June the 8th with the idea that we will approve a fee schedule on June the 7th?
That's correct.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have questions? Any questions? What kind of training do we need to do with the community, like with builders and things like that? Do we have any kind of outreach plan for how we're going to communicate requirements?
We haven't thought about and discussed really the training. Most of the time developers are using engineering firms. Like I've reused an engineering firm for this, and they know what the process is.
In thinking back, and I'm just using Mr. Lunsford as an example tonight because he just had an approval process. But I'm trying to think back in the last couple of years, has anyone pursued a subdivision development other than Mr. Lunsford? I mean, that it's come to us. I can't remember.
I don't think so.
Okay.
He's been the last three. There will be one on the agenda for next month.
Yeah.
That's not Mr. Lunsford.
Well, can we have some kind of meeting maybe in the next month to bring those guys in and just talk to them about how this is going to be different? Since it's going to go into effect, if we adopt it, it would go into effect June the 8th, so they have some idea of what they're looking at.
We can do that.
That sound all right?
And there's not like a specific. We don't have one. What we do. I mean, Mr. Lunsford is the main one doing the developments, and he knows the process, and he's got personnel on staff. But generally speaking, if you got somebody from outside the county coming in, they're bringing their own people with them. We'll have preliminary meetings with the developer, with the engineering firm, with the site planner, all that stuff at the county office. They'll understand. So part of that process is. Part of this does include like our meetings with developers. So they'll come in prior to even submitting an application, and we'll walk them through exactly what the process is, exactly what we expect, what the costs are going to be, what we want, what we don't want.
Okay.
So that, it's not something that we really would like put on like we did with the building inspections program, because this would be a much bigger process, and it's really required to have those preliminary meetings.
Have we gotten any kind of feedback? I know, there's a small audience who may be aware of this or that would impact initially, but any kind of feedback publicly?
No, I have not.
Do you anticipate updating like these type of developments to curb and drain, kind of like?
So that's something we went back and forth on when we wrote it. There is, if we ever get to a lot size reduction, there is provisions for curb and gutter. Once if we remain at a 1 acre minimum lot size with county water and septic, we basically said we're okay with still ditching it. But if those lot sizes start coming down as we expand our sewer system, stuff like that, we will, and it's kind of embedded in here already that once you get this certain lot size, we're gonna have to start requiring curb and gutter. Because currently how it is, you don't want to regulate stuff out of business, so to speak. With a 1 acre lot size, having to build roads, having to put curb and gutter in, having to do all this stuff, you're going to drive up the cost of development to a point to where it's not feasible to develop in Franklin County. And that's not what the goal is. The intention is to make sure what's being done is being done. We don't want to put any strenuous expectations on developers that aren't met.
Any other questions? Any questions? All right, at this time, is there a motion to adopt the subdivision and land development ordinance as presented with an effective date of June the 8th?
I'll make a motion that we adopt the subdivision ordinance with the effective date of June the 8th.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Foster's made a motion to adopt. Is there a second?
I'll second, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Westers has seconded the motion. Is there any discussion? Any further discussion? Anyone? Okay. All in favor of the motion to adopt the subdivision and land development ordinance as presented with an effective date of June the 8th, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. The motion will carry 4-0, and the subdivision and land development ordinance is adopted with an effective date of June 8th. Thank you, Mr. Logan.
Appreciate it.
All right, the next item on the agenda is board appointments, and we have several, so we're going to take these piece by piece. The first board we need to look at is the Recreation Board. The Rec Commission has one vacancy, and the director, Mr. Gailey, has passed on to us a recommendation for Mr. Alan Bryant, who has served in the past on the Rec Board. This appointment would complete a vacant term, a vacancy that was created when someone left their position. Do we know the date that term would expire? We really need to know. We really need to know if we should go ahead and vote on that or find out the term expiration first. Do we have our attorney, Mr. Samuels, on? He can advise us on that. Our attorney is joining us by Zoom tonight, so.
I'm here.
Okay. We have a vacancy on the Recreation Board that was created by someone who left their position, and so we would be appointing someone that the board has the Rec Commission has recommended to fill that term, the remainder of that term. The problem is we're not quite sure when that term expires. Would it be appropriate to go ahead and make a motion and appoint that for the remainder of that term, and we can find that out later, or should we wait, find that out before we make the appointment?
The expiration date, but I think it's fine to the remainder of the current term.
Current term. Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Samuels. All right. So the Rec Commission has made the recommendation that we appoint Mr. Alan Bryant, and we have his application on file. So at this time, is there a motion to appoint Alan Bryant to the Recreation Commission, and he would fill the remainder of the unexpired term of the current vacancy?
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes, sir.
Was this position, did it have to be put in the paper as available, or is it left to the discretion of?
We advertised for 30 days.
Okay, I wanted to just verify that.
Yes, sir, we did.
Actually, we got it on June.
Yes, we've been advertising, and we sort of reached a consensus. We would do 30 days from now on for all board and committee appointments. So all of the vacancies tonight that we're going to address have been advertised for 30 days, and that advertisement period has expired, correct? Okay. All right, so at this time, is there a motion to appoint Alan Bryant to the Rec Commission? His term, that would fill an unexpired term that currently exists on the board.
I'll make a motion to appoint Alan Bryant to fill that slot.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Franklin has made the motion to appoint Alan Bryant. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Foster has seconded the motion. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of the motion to appoint Alan Bryant to the Recreation Commission to fill the unexpired term created by the current vacancy on the board, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Okay, the motion will carry 4-0, and Alan Bryant is appointed to the Rec Commission to fill that unexpired term. And can you get with Mr. Gailey tomorrow and find out so that we nail down exactly when? Good, thank you. All right, the library board has 2 vacancies. We had one applicant, Rita Shoemaker, who is currently serving on the board and whose term expires on June the 30th, 2021. Should we reappoint Ms. Shoemaker, her new term would begin July the 1st, 2021 and expire on June the 30th, 2025. We have an additional applicant, Donna Avery, who noted on her application she would be interested in serving in any position needed. And I believe we've contacted her and she is agreeable to also serve on the library board. If she were appointed, she would begin on July 1st, or is that a current vacancy, or would that be one that opens up on July 1st?
I think it's July 1st.
Okay, 2021, and then her term would expire on June the 30th, 2025. So she would be in line with Ms. Shoemaker if we appoint her. So at this time, is there a motion to reappoint Rita Shoemaker to the library board? Her term would begin on July 1st, 2021 and expire on June the 30th, 2025.
Make a motion that we reappoint Mrs. Shoemaker to that position.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Swales has made a motion to reappoint Rita Shoemaker to the library board. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Foster has seconded the motion. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of the motion to reappoint Rita Shoemaker to the library board, term to begin July 1st, 2021 and expire June the 30th, 2025, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Okay, the motion will carry 4-0. Rita Shoemaker is reappointed to the library board, and so her term would begin as soon as her current term expires. All right, at this time, is there a motion to appoint Donna Avery to the second library board vacancy? And again, that term to begin July 1st, 2021 and end June the 30th, 2025.
I'll make a motion to appoint Donna Jones Avery to the library board.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Foster has made a motion to appoint Donna Avery to the library board. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Franklin has seconded the motion. Is there any further discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to appoint Donna Avery to the library board, term to begin July 1st, 2021 and end June 30th, 2025, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion will carry 4-0, and Donna Avery is appointed to the library board. The Airport Authority is the third authority or board or committee that we have a vacancy on. We currently have one vacancy on the Airport Authority. We have 2 appointments. Martha Long was appointed June of last year, but she has resigned. Our appointment would begin immediately and complete her unexpired term, which began June the 1st, 2020 and will end May 31st, 2024. We have one applicant, Woodson McFarland, to consider, and I had a chance to speak with him today. I feel like he is highly qualified. We have his application on file, and so I would recommend to the board that we appoint Woodson McFarland. So at this time, is there a motion to appoint Woodson McFarland to the Airport Authority to fill the unexpired term of Martha Long, appointment to expire May 31st, 2024?
Make a motion that we approve Mr. Woodson for that position.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Swales has made the motion to appoint Mr. McFarland to the Airport Authority. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Commissioner Foster seconded the motion. Is there any discussion? Okay. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to appoint Woodson McFarland to the Airport Authority to fill the unexpired term of Martha Long, term to expire May 31st, 2024, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. The motion will carry 4-0, and Woodson McFarland is appointed to the Airport Authority. I spoke or I heard from Alan Powell today, and he let us know that House Bill 658, which is the local amendment to the local legislation governing certain transactions between Airport Authority members and the Airport Authority or the airport itself, such as whether or not they can lease hangars or ground space and whether or not they can purchase fuel for their planes. And he let us know that legislation was signed by the governor today. So it is, in fact, law, signed by Governor Kemp. I just want to let everybody know that because we've been waiting on hearing about that. The next item on the agenda is the National Safe Boating Week proclamation. We were contacted by the Coast Guard, and they asked us to consider a proclamation proclaiming May the 22nd through May the 28th as National Safe Boating Week. And this is just a proclamation that recognizes the importance of boating safety. We have a large population that lives on the lake, and also we have the Broad River, and so boating safety is very important. So Commissioners, you have that proclamation before you. At this time, is there a motion to approve the proclamation designating May 22nd through May 28th, 2021 as National Safe Boating Week, and authorize the chairman to sign?
I'll make a motion that we approve the National Safe Boating Week proclamation and give you permission to sign, Mr. Chairman. Okay, thank you. Commissioner Westers made the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Commissioner Foster seconded the motion. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of the motion to approve the proclamation designating the week of May 22nd through May 28th, 2021 as National Safe Boating Week and authorize the chairman to sign, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. The motion will carry 4-0, and that proclamation is approved. The next item is National Mental Health Awareness Month proclamation, and this proclamation designates May, and I think this is a national designation. Do we know who makes that designation? Is that from the federal government?
That's the federal government.
Okay. Mental health is important, and we talked about this in great detail last year and started some programs for our employees. So I think it's appropriate that we approve this proclamation, but it would designate the month of May 2021 as Mental Health Month in Franklin County, and authorize the chairman to sign. So is there a motion to that effect?
I'll make the motion to make the month of May, what it was, the National Mental Health Awareness Month.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Foster's made the motion to, and also authorize chairman.
Authorize the chairman to sign
Okay.
also, yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Foster's made a motion to approve the proclamation and authorize the chairman to sign. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you. Commissioner Franklin has seconded the motion. Is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor of this motion to approve the proclamation designating the month of May 2021 as Mental Health Month in Franklin County and authorize the chairman to sign, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. The motion will carry 4-0, and the proclamation is approved. Okay. The next item on the agenda is the alcohol survey. I'm going to ask Mr. Turner to summarize those findings. Mr. Turner.
So we talked about this a little bit before, and last week, just talking about county alcohol sales. Currently, there are no unincorporated county alcohol sales allowed. And we put up a survey. This was just a Facebook survey just to get a general idea of the public feeling towards this. So I'll just briefly go over these numbers. So with that, we had 548 participants in the survey. We had 80.6 that were in favor of approving alcohol sales within the county, 17.9 against, and 1.5 that had no opinion. There we go. All right, then we had the amount of full-time residents of Franklin County. We had 92.9% that are full-time residents, 80.7 that live in the unincorporated area of the county.
This is just a chart that we kind of talked about. This is ACCG report on county alcohol sales. So what this gives is just basically a breakdown of the different type of permits and licensures for alcohol sales within all counties within Georgia. This is just a brief glimpse at the overall chart, but you can see us just about halfway down. Currently, there's about 4 to 5 counties throughout the state that are dry counties. Every other county in some way has some type of alcohol permitting or sales. But as you can see, for us across the board, we're in no in red to any type of on-premise, off-premise type of sales. The reason that we looked at this too is not necessarily the generation of taxes necessarily, but just the opportunity that if this measure was approved by referendum, of course, then that gives opportunity to where you attract businesses. So you're able to attract the nature that do live off of alcohol sales. So like I said, this is what we talked about last week, and that's everything that we had involved with the survey accordingly. Next steps, as we're kind of looking at that the board action would be the approval excuse me, of a resolution to go forward with a referendum. Referendum for us would not happen anytime prior to November.
What would be the format of the referendum? Would it be just blanket allow alcohol sales, or would we have to say alcohol sales like on premises and off consumption? Or I mean, how do we set that up?
And I believe and Bubba can probably chime into that just a little bit. I believe that one doesn't have to specify the on-premise, off-premise. Is that correct, Bubba?
I'm sorry, can you repeat it?
Yeah, with the referendum, would that have to specify any type of off-premise or on-premise type of sales, or could that just be a blanket referendum for approving alcohol sales within the county?
In the resolution calling for the referendum, exactly the type of on-premises, on-premises.
Yeah.
So those would be and therefore would be specified in the referendum.
In the referendum. So, commissioners, let's talk about this. We wouldn't look at passing a resolution tonight. I think we ought to take at least a month to kind of think through this. But what are your thoughts about?
You take some time to look at it.
Those numbers pretty well match what I've heard from people that I've talked with in the county.
Right, and it is important to note that is an informal survey. It's not scientific by any means, because we can't guarantee that everybody in the county saw it, or let alone responded. But it maybe is an indication of kind of where the general consensus lies, perhaps. Any other comments?
Comment I got's not good.
Go ahead.
I'm not for it. And people that's had a drunk driver kill some family member, they won't be for it. And the tax money that we make off of that, the sheriff's department's going to need it. Like the deal over on the lake, where 2 drunks fussing, one of them got killed. So I'm not for it. We've made it all this time without it. It might bring in tax money, but we won't never see none of it to do any good. We'll have to back the sheriff's department. He'll have to have 3 or 4 more cars and deputies. I mean, I don't understand it. I don't see where it's going to profit anything.
All the cities currently all 5 cities allow alcohol sales?
Yes, I believe all 5.
Okay. Any other comments or discussion?
And see, we don't know what the sheriff's department, what they have to go through, go to these families. It's some drunk daddy beating up on the wife and kids. I mean, why do I want to add to that, Sheriff? I'm not for it. Y'all do what y'all want to do, but I'm not for it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Franklin. Anyone else have comments? All right, well, let's hold off on considering a resolution at least until next month's meeting, and we can take it from there. If we did a resolution, the referendum would not take place until November, general election.
Right.
Okay. All right. Let's move on. The next issue is a road issue. Mr. Larry Ray Brown is going to be on the agenda. As a reminder, remember when you're on the agenda, you have 5 minutes to make your comments, and that includes question and answer time. So the clerk is going to have her timer there for you, just so you can keep track. Okay. So come on up, Mr. Brown.
I was here back in, I think, September, and I brought it to your attention that I live at 211 Mountain View Drive, Livonia, Georgia. Because we now have 3 school buses that go up and down my road twice a day, the road is absolutely beat up. You can't put gravel on it. We got gravel last week, and the gravel is now gone. I try to keep the street from my house to where Skyline Way comes in. I cut both sides of that road and to make it look neat and nice. And with the road being washed out the way it is, people are going over on my grass, or what I call my grass. But anyway, we need these roads paved. And back in September when I came, I brought to your attention, had any of you guys ever heard about tar and gravel? And I brought that up to ask you guys to look into that. Did anybody look into tar and gravel and what it would cost versus what asphalt costs?
We haven't yet, but we are going to ask the county manager to do a study because I think there are several potential methods. Can you remind us, one of the quotes you had, I couldn't remember, was it $35,000 or $30,000 for a tenth of a mile behind you?
There was a subdivision going down Poplar Springs Road that they did 9/10 of a mile.
9/10, okay.
9/10 of a mile. And the homeowners paid for that. They got an independent contractor to come in, take up the asphalt, and put asphalt down. And it cost them like $30,000.
So it was asphalt. I was thinking you said tar and gravel.
No, they
okay,
put asphalt down. And we get Mr. John Phillips, the engineer, he comes out and meets with us. Prior to me moving up here, he came out and said that it cost the county $1 million to do a mile of asphalt. Well, if that's the case, I need to start an asphalt company, and I'm retired, and I don't want to go back to work. But really, guys, it cannot cost $1 million to do a mile of asphalt. If it is, the county's subbing with the wrong people. But anyway, the tax issue with the people that live on the lake is so much higher than the tax rates of the people that live off the lake. We, the people that live around the lake, we live on dirt roads. The people that don't live on the lake live on paved roads. What's up with that? I don't understand that. Does that make any sense? No, it don't. Not when my taxes are low.
Y'all, please keep the comments down, just so everybody can hear what he's saying.
Anyway, let's get back to the school buses. I've got a little diagram of the roads in my subdivision are coming in. If you come down Poplar Springs Road and you turn onto Lakeview Drive, which I don't use that road, but if you turn on Lakeview Drive, it's a downhill road. That road right now is like a washboard. I have to use that road when I take my boat out to get my boat back in my boat barn. Anyway, it is so terrible that I tried to go out it with my boat the other day, and I had to use 4-wheel drive so that I would not throw gravel on my boat. Now that right there is ridiculous, folks. If you can't go down a road and not have to use 4-wheel drive, what does that tell you?
Is that the way the school buses come?
The school buses ride up and down that road also.
So do they make a loop, or they go down and come right back
Skyline, up? They come in Skyline, then they come down Mountain View, and then they go out Mountain View. They turn on to Skyline. All these roads have got Skyline in them anyway. They make a loop, and that road is absolutely terrible. Like I said, when I have to use 4-wheel drive to pull my boat up a county road, that's unacceptable.
Have you had any contact with the Board of Education or superintendent about that?
No, sir, I haven't.
Okay.
I have not.
Do you know if anybody who lives on the road has?
No, sir.
I thought Mr. Lawley had talked about that last time.
Bobby's sick, and that's the reason he's not here tonight. But anyway, all that being said, I don't want to be a thorn in your side. I really don't. I want to enjoy retirement life, but also I want it to be to where I don't have to deal with a bus flying down my road and slinging mud everywhere. I mean, you know, it's crazy.
I talked to the school, the Board of Education before. Somebody complained that the buses were digging out an area, and the school board actually brought gravel out and did that.
Do
So
I get an extension?
no, what we'll do is talk to them, and we'll try to see how they can help. But we're also going to do a study and see what potentially other types of paving other than asphalt that might be economical. We just have to consider, well, if we put something down besides asphalt, how long is it going to last?
Right.
So we are going to work on that.
Okay. I got one other thing, if I can interject.
Just real quick, because
Okay.
I don't want to.
Next month, I'm coming back. I want on the agenda for next month, and I want to be. This is going to be about tax dollars. Each one of you have a district. I went to the tax office.
Let's wait and do that then, because that wasn't really on your topic
Okay.
list for tonight.
That'll be
Your time's
fine.
up. Okay.
Can I talk to you at the end of this?
You can. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very
All
much.
right. Thank you, Mr. Brown. Go through this. Whoops.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Just as an aside for what Mr. Brown was mentioning, we have started looking at some of the alternatives that
Okay.
could be there to try to see if there's something. It does come down to possibly some cost savings, but it is a matter too of, is it going to last? What's the feasibility of the timeline? We don't want to put something that's half the cost that we have to do twice as many times, because then it's essentially the same thing.
Right.
But engineer, look at that right now.
Can we talk to the Board of Education too? Because the bus department, they actually came out on their own and brought gravel for that particular case. I think it was Gunwalk Grove Drive, where the buses had dug out a huge rut, and they actually came. So I know apparently they have gravel or the means to get it.
Mr. Chairman, one of your school board members is right there.
Oh, okay. I totally forgot.
I'm in the corner over here.
I totally forgot that. He is. But they have helped with that before, so maybe that's something we can talk to them about. All right. The next item is Michael Steve Fortson. And again, this is a road issue. So again, just a reminder, you have Mr. Fortson. You have 5. Is he here, Mr. Fortson?
No, he's sick.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Well, we'll move on.
Fires, going around, so
Okay. And Mr. Robertson. Okay. All right. So Mr. Robertson's next, and his topic are roads, garbage, and county marshal. So again, remember you have 5 minutes, and that includes question and answer, and you need to keep your comments to that particular topic. So come on up.
Thank you, gentlemen.
And
I'd
she's
like
going
to
to set
say-
your timer for you. Or
I'd
I'm
like
sorry.
to say the county marshal we had prior was doing an excellent job. And we certainly appreciate y'all's efforts in hiring someone and giving him the backbone to do his job. Okay, we started to see Gumlog area start to clean up. We want to ask y'all to do the same with the next gentleman y'all hire. The next thing is garbage. We talked about that at the study group. I'd ask y'all to look at licensing and setting some perimeters on these businesses so that you don't have these wire trucks running up and down the road. I showed Mr. Forrester pictures, actual photographs of what we was talking about trash being blown off by these pickup truck, I'm going to call them type individuals. And the next thing is roads. Sunday morning, I live on Mountain View Drive. From 8 o'clock to 8 o'clock that night, my wife and I did a survey, 138 cars. Now, we have a lot of rentals down there. When I say rentals is, we're supposed to have single-family dwellings, but somebody will buy a house and rent it out for $800 to $2,400 a week, okay? Then we have 7 or 8 cars that are dealing with that one rental house, you know? So, can you imagine on a quarter of a mile, all that? Okay, you come in off of Copper Springs onto Skyline. Skyline makes a horseshoe behind me. I live right in the middle. They're coming off of Skyline. They're coming up Mountain View. They're coming in off of Lakeshore, like Mr. Brown talked about. They're coming through. We got dope dealers. We've got 2 dope dealers in our subdivision. Okay, I didn't even count the cars after 11 o'clock at night I had. Okay, so we appreciate it if y'all continue to look on our road and all, and I want to thank you for your time. Thank
All
you,
right.
Joe.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Sheriff's back there if you need to deal with dope dealers.
He's doing well.
All right.
We got to get our judges on board with
I just want to give everybody, try to put the road issues in perspective. We realize that roads are a huge concern, and we care about that. But I want to give you some information just to put the magnitude of the problem into perspective. In Franklin County, there are approximately 447 total miles of county roadway, not including private roadway. The 447 total miles are paved and gravel that the county's adopted. Of that, 260 are paved and about 187 miles are the gravel roads. And that's miles, not number of individual roads. It's actual miles. We don't keep an inventory of the exact number of private roads, but we think there are approximately 250 private roads, and that accounts for about 56 total miles. A lot of those roads are probably very short. You might have one that's 1/10 of a mile. So even though it sounds like there's a lot of them, 250, maybe they add up to 56 miles, and that is an estimate because we don't keep track of those because they're not technically county roads. They're privately owned by the landowners. The average cost right now, based on current bid prices, and Mr. Brown talked about this, the average cost to improve a gravel road to a paved asphalt road based on current bid prices is about $750,000 per mile. And that can vary a little bit, obviously. That's not going to be the same for every road because the current condition of the road is going to vary. You have some roads that are in excellent shape. Some roads need a lot of work before you could pave them. They have to be widened. They have to be graded more. So that's probably an average based on current bid prices. The average cost to repair or resurface a paved road is about $200,000 per mile. It's already paved. You're going to fill in the potholes and resurface it. So it's a lot lower. These costs vary depending on the initial condition of a gravel road and also the current cost of materials, which are going up. So what we say today is probably not true tomorrow. The latest projects for resurfacing range from $151,261 to $262,344, with that average being about $200,000 per mile. In general, we're going to spend about $750,000 per year, and that right now is approximately equivalent to 1 mil of property tax. Right now, Franklin County's property tax is about 10.5 if you live in the unincorporated areas, and I believe 11.7 if you live in the city. So think about that in terms, it takes a mil to do that 1 mile if you're going to just pave it, $750,000. We use that amount to resurface approximately 5 miles every year. So each year we get, that amount's going to vary, but we get about $750,000 in LMIG plus our local match. And we try to pick the 5 miles of roadway that will do the most good for everybody. Now, remembering there's 447 miles of total roadway, 260 miles of paved road. We get to look at 5 miles. So we have to do a lot of prioritizing. And what we've done is we asked this company to come in and grade those roads based on conditions so that we have somewhat of an objective means to score them. And that way we can focus on maybe the worst roads. And we can't do all of them because even the worst roads far outstrip 5 miles. We've paved very few gravel roads in the last 10 years. The last road that we improved from gravel to paved was Freedom Drive, and that was from State Route 328 to the Stevens County line. It was about half a mile in 2017. The county did all the grading and the drainage. And I don't have a price on what we paid for that. We replaced the majority of the base, and then a contractor completed the base, the asphalt paving, the striping, shoulder construction, and the contract cost for that half a mile was $82,464, and that was in 2017. In 2011, the county improved Griffin Road, which is about 3/4 of a mile from gravel to asphalt. And again, the county completed the grading, we did the drainage work, and then the contract cost for asphalt paving, striping, shoulder construction was $184,313. And again, that was in 2011. So to put all this in perspective, the county millage rate I talked about a while ago for the unincorporated areas is 10.5 mils. Actually, I think it's 10.55 maybe. 1 mil then is somewhere in the neighborhood right now of $750,000. I checked with the tax commissioner. It's probably, I think he said $743,000. So we'll say $750,000. So we're spending the equivalent of almost 10% of our property tax collections right now on just the resurfacing projects. Now, granted, a lot of that money comes from LMIG, that's true. But just to put in perspective the amount we're doing on resurfacing, and that's not including the money that we spend to maintain gravel roads, because we have a road department. They go out and they gravel roads. They also patch paved roads. They'll fill potholes or contract that out. So that cost, that $750,000, is just looking at those 5 miles to resurface each year, not the other work, because the road department obviously does other work. So just to put that in perspective, the magnitude of the problem we face, because we have 447 miles of roadway, 260 paved, 187 gravel. I mean, to be able to address that, I think we'd have to or the bulk of those roads, we would have to significantly increase property taxes because the money's just not there. We do care about it. We know it's a huge problem. We're trying to put our resources where they'll do the most good. And I know that's no consolation if you live on a road that hasn't been paved, or that maybe they've said to you, we're going to pave your road next year, and we're going to pave your road next year, and we're going to pave your road next year, and then it never happens. I know that's frustrating. In the short run, we're going to ask our staff to evaluate the paving types, because we know there are other means than just asphalt. We just don't know how much does that cost and how long will that last. It doesn't make any sense to use tar and gravel if it's, if the life expectancy is 1, 2, 3 years, because in 3 years that's going to go by fast and you're going to have an even worse problem. So we're going to do that. We're going to talk to the Board of Education and see if they can help on that particular road, because several people have mentioned that. If I remember right, I think Mr. Brown or maybe Mr. Lawley said that they had talked with somebody at the Board of Education and they had addressed the problem and helped somewhat, and now it's kind of back to where it was. But I don't remember the specifics.
I can't respond to that because I don't know.
In the long run, the county is still looking at the idea of a T-SPLOST. A T-SPLOST is a transportation SPLOST, which the state now allows a county to levy just for that county. So we would basically, it would be, you're looking at a 1 cent additional sales tax. The money generated would be for Franklin County's roads. I think a small percentage goes to the state. The bulk of it goes to improve our roads. We stand to generate several $1 million of revenue from that would be used exclusively on roads. And that, I think, in the long run is our best option. Again, we haven't committed to that, but we're looking at that. We need to explore that, because I don't frankly know where else we get the revenue for what we need. The magnitude of the problem we have, if we don't do a T-SPLOST, we can keep putting Band-Aids on things. And a T-SPLOST is not the answer to everything, but several million extra dollars each year would help a lot. It would go a long way. We also are reevaluating our SPLOST funds that we have going now. We have 4 SPLOST 4, SPLOST 5 funds. They are already committed to some projects, but there may be some options there to redirect some of that money to roads, because you can use it for that. So we're also evaluating that. We don't have anything specific to say right now, but that's what we're looking at. So I just want to say we do care about that issue, and we are trying to brainstorm and be creative and figure out, well, how can we get extra money to the roads? But that is, there are some short-term fixes and there are some long-term fixes. None of them are going to give us all what we want, but maybe we can find a way to make the roads better. We are very hesitant to adopt roads because some of those roads were developed by contractors and they're subpar. And even the roads that look good, you may be adopting a host of problems that would, in the long run, cost us even more money. So we are not in a hurry to adopt private roads. I know a lot of people want us to, and we would love to, but we have to take that very carefully, because we may wind up giving the county significant problems that we hadn't counted on, which will cost even more money to fix. So that's not something that we are in a hurry to jump to. We will do that study, though, in the next month or two. We'll kind of come back with the results for that, and then maybe we can look at some decisions. Do any of you guys have anything to add about the roads? Okay. The next item on the agenda is the county manager's report, so I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Turner to go over the next several items with us.
It might be all talked about itself.
Slide?
Yeah, it's the next slide.
brain to hit the change.
Oh, just hit enter. Should be able to just hit enter. Yep, there you go. All right, so just kind of talking about, I know we've talked about trash as being an issue. I will say for, I know Terry mentioned garbage, and the garbage trucks that we have looked at, we have started looking at that as kind of regulating those trash trucks that are out there in the Gunlog area as far as how we can regulate that. So we're working with county to turn it back down with that particular issue. Kind of coming to the next thing that we talked about with trash in general is just looking at litter and cleanup. I know that we've kind of heard from citizens that that's an issue that they'd like to see addressed, and I think there's a few methods that we have to go about that. I think one that we have looked at and kind of talked about is sort of looking at Keep America Beautiful affiliate. It's an organization, it's a nonprofit. This would have to be something that is citizen-led. But if citizens were to lead that, the county could in turn partner with them to kind of help start that organization and then help them with sort of the setup and make sure that that organization is running. So the Keep America Beautiful, you hear like Keep Gwinnett Beautiful, they essentially take, the affiliates basically take, it would be Keep Franklin Beautiful is what it could say, essentially. But that's a little bit of information in front of you and a website that just shows exactly some of the detail of it. The reason that we look at more affiliations with this type of organization is if you have something that's more just citizen-led, that's just sort of informal, you maybe don't have some of the standards that something like this would bring. So the big part for them is that they do come in and they do training. They also do other things that are going to help with the organization being having those standards to where it operates in the same type of fashion. They have about 600 local, state and local affiliates, so they are a well-established organization. And again, this has to be citizen-led. So if we do have any citizens in the room or listening to us online, we are more than happy to partner with them and get them the information that they need to be able to do this and get this set up. As we keep going a little bit more, there is an affiliation process that pertains to it and some fees that do pertain to it. This would be where I would suggest if citizens are interested in doing this type of organization, the county can partner to help them with those fees. So sort of the thought towards what the certification fee would be is somewhere in the ballpark of about $3,000, $4,000 as a certification, one-time certification fee to start the organization. And that's something that we could partner with. The yearly certification that they have is somewhere in the ballpark of about $160 or they would be able to. So in addition to this, we could also work with Felton Services, who I think I've sent some information to you guys about. What they do is they do clean by the mile. And we can get that information from them to see exactly what the cost structure is. But that's the basics of the litter cleanup and what that contains.
You said how much was it per mile?
He's willing to negotiate a little bit more with us on that.
Yeah.
So it's usually in the ballpark of, I think it's $234 typically per mile, but he'd be willing to negotiate that down for us.
And is that the same for, I guess, would we look at state or county roads? I know the sheriff helps us with county roads. You can't do state roads, right? Okay. Why is that? Is that like just a law?
Well, it's liability for.
Okay.
So it would be an opportunity. We could look at state roads. We could also look at supplementing any other county areas that we want to as well. So that'd be options.
We know you use them a lot. We appreciate that.
You took it from the state, just might pick it up, put it in the location, we can pick it up.
Yeah.
Last time we were on the side of the road.
On the side of the road. Okay.
But these are just options again for helping them to clean up. So I think it's got to be multifaceted, but it does have to be citizen-led in that type of effort to make sure that we're.
Have you already talked to the chamber about the businesses and?
So I meet with them next week about that.
Okay.
So we'll talk about with the Chamber of Commerce's adopting a business to kind of help with that effort as well. Sort of hitting all angles. It gives us an opportunity to where they're adopting a business. We maybe have an affiliate organization, and then that service on top of it, it gets us to where we bring it up to whatever standard we say we want to be at, and then at that point we're able to maintain that standard instead of fighting the uphill like we talked about of cleaning up, and then we come back around the corner and there's trash again.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have questions? Okay.
All right, next thing we'll talk about, and I'll kind of, I won't take too long on this, is that the county audit. We'll talk about this briefly. We did talk about this last week, but with having a couple of commissioners out last week. So what you see within this, looking at your general fund, and there are slides to this. If you don't mind.
Sorry.
No problem. We're working now. It's a little finicky on me today. Sorry about that. But just starting with the audit, just some things to gloss over what the auditors did talk about with us. Now, we were behind in finishing the FY20 audit, so we did just get that finished, a couple small minor things, reports that we have to submit, but otherwise we're done with that. But looking at the general fund real quick for just remember this is FY20. Revenues were about 17 million, expenditures were just over 15 million. So our revenue stream was above our expenditures. Interfund balances, we do have one issue to correct with E911 special revenue fund of 3.4 million, and then due from the water sewer enterprise fund about 3.2 million. This gives us an unrestricted fund balance, assigned and unassigned, of about 10.8 million. So essentially what that translates into is that is almost like saying a reserve. So with that being a reserve, that's what the 8.28 months equal. That means that you have enough money in reserve to cover 8.28 months of operating.
And that was at the end of, that was June 30th, 2020.
Yes, that's
okay.
Right. So this will be a little bit skewed as per this particular moment, just because this is the FY20. All right, this is just taking a look at the last 5 fiscal years of our fund balance. So we just talked about that fund balance at 10.8 million, 2.5 million. With this is just showing a trend that's going to let you know that we have improved our fund balance pretty well every year since FY16. So we started at about 3 million. We're now at about 10.5. So we've been fiscally responsible is essentially what that type of chart is going to show you. With the water sewer fund, revenue increased by about 42%, so that was the addition of a large industrial customer. Of course, with the increase of revenue, that also means you're going to increase your expenses. So we had about 28%. The intergovernmental revenue, that decreased by 37%. That's just the WWTP project funding. Solid waste fund, the operating revenue again increased by 7.5%, and this is a smaller fund, but increased by 7.5%, while the expenses within that fund increased by 4.3%, so you'll still see the trend revenues over your expense. We have some small other major governmental funds, just summarized right here. So looking at the E911 fund, you'll have revenues, and you'll notice in this one it's flip-flop on this one. So you have revenues of about 440,000 with expenditures of about 835,000. So you'll pretty well always see with an E911 that it is not self-sustaining, the revenues. This is where you kind of look at that $3.4 million of transfer that's due from. You'll typically transfer from the general fund every year to cover that difference. With the SPLOST 5 fund, total revenues of about $4 million. So that includes the SPLOST and $52 of interest, expenditures of about $3.5 million, $1 million of intergovernmental disbursements to the cities, $863,000 of capital projects, and $1.7 million of debt services, so paying off debt. There are 5 other non-major governmental funds, but any questions audit-wise before I move on? And this was just a brief summary. We do have the book that was given to everybody that was here last week, and then the book that I gave for two that were here tonight. Any audit questions?
What type of things are on that debt service that we're paying?
So you're talking about, and I can get a full list for you, but you're looking at things like the hospital would probably be your largest with the bond.
Yeah.
Any other capital leases that we've had, large capital projects that we had. I could probably get a clear list.
Okay, thank you.
That's not a problem. Good. All right. And I just wanted to take a moment just to make mention of this, because I think this will be important for us, is looking at the Michael Mayfield Senior Gym dedication that we have upcoming on May 15th from 11 to 2 at Rocky Ford Park. Admission is free. Of course, with this, we just wanted to make sure to, number one, honor Mr. Mayfield Senior. for the service that he had to the county. Number one thing that we'll have, so we'll have on the building. But we also wanted to make sure too that we had the opportunity to have essentially a community grow. And as we look at budgeting, trying to find those ways that we can include the community in the various things that we are 11 to 2.
That's not this Saturday. It's next Saturday.
This Saturday,
Okay.
The following. Yep, the following. So we'll rename the gym, but we'll also, have bouncy houses. We'll have food, hot dogs, hamburgers. Just in my miscellaneous of notes, just to talk about that we had our first meet and greet with the county manager. So just an opportunity available to the citizens to go out and eat. We went to Old Northern Hardware Store this past Friday. We did have a couple people stop by and say hey. So this is an opportunity to make myself available so that if people do have questions or anything that they may need, county business questions wise, they have an opportunity to come ask those. I think for us to make sure that we are available as staff, because I know we kind of get bogged down on some of the day-to-day things, but we do want to make sure we take that opportunity that people can come and talk to us and know that we are available. So making mention of that, we will do that probably at least once a month. We have not announced the next location, so if anybody just follows us on social media, Facebook, and I believe now we have our Instagram up and running. So what's our?
I appreciate you doing that. That's a great idea, a good way to reach out to the community. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing, just on top of that we do as county manager Friday, where typically I'll get on and do some type of speech. We're trying to make sure that we are educating the public about everything that we are doing. There's nothing that is not public knowledge that I'm doing this every day. So we just want to make sure that we're as transparent as possible. That people know what we're doing, and when they have questions that we're to answer. So just want to make mention of those couple of things that we are doing within the offices. Again, for anybody that's looking for any of those speeches that we have, it's just something very short, maybe 20, 30 seconds, maybe a minute. But if you're following us on Facebook or even Instagram, then they have an opportunity to view them.
Okay.
That's everything I have. Any questions for me?
All right. Thank you. Well, the next item are announcements. Do you have any announcements for us?
No, I do not have any.
All right. Before you sat down, I didn't want you. I've got a couple. I just want to remind everyone the Planning and Zoning Commission is going to hold a public hearing on May the 19th. I believe, is that a Wednesday?
It is.
Normally they meet on Thursday, but we were trying to find a day that we could get a big venue, which is going to be the Ag Center. So that's the reason behind the change in date. So this is at the Franklin County High School Ag Center, and it will begin at 5 o'clock. The purpose of this hearing is to consider planning and zoning applications, much the way we did earlier this evening, including the resubmitted applications by Pilgrims to rezone property located near the intersection of I-85 and Highway 320, and for a conditional use permit to operate a poultry rendering plant, pet food manufacturing plant. This hearing will be open to the public, and it will also be streamed live on the Zoom platform for viewing only. You won't be able to interact on Zoom. You'll just be able to watch. Commissioners may also attend this by Zoom, and so we may have a quorum of commissioners on Zoom, and so we make that announcement, and we'll also put it on Facebook, kind of the way we did back in March. And this is just an opportunity, for an issue of that magnitude to make sure commissioners have a chance to hear directly what people say. The Carnesville Community Center is the overflow. Is that correct?
I don't know that we've got that locked down yet. I don't think we have.
Okay, we need to find out about that and announce it. Okay, all right.
I know it is, yeah, I know it's for the board of commissioners. Know about the
Okay, so we need to check on that. The Board of Commissioners is going to hold a public hearing to consider the planning and zoning applications, including Pilgrims, on June the 7th, 2021, and that will also be at the Franklin County High School Ag Center. That will also begin at 5 o'clock that afternoon. This hearing will be open to the public. It'll also be streamed live on the Zoom platform, again, for viewing only. If you would like to make comments at that meeting or at planning and zoning, you have to be physically present. If you just want to watch, then Zoom is an option. The board will consider voting on all the planning and zoning items from the public hearing at their regular board meeting on June the 7th, which will immediately follow the public hearing that we have on June the 7th. So much as tonight, we have the public hearing. We hold that open as long as is necessary. Normally the hearings are over. We have those at 5:30. We start the regular meeting at 6. Because of the number of people we expect to attend, we're going to start the public hearing at 5. We will run that as long as we have to until everyone there has an opportunity to speak. and then we'll close it down and then immediately start the regular meeting. And that meeting, of course, also is at the Ag Center. The regular board meeting will begin, and then the Carnesville Community Center is our overflow site there. We realized there were sound issues last time, and so we're working on that for the community center. Members of the public who wish to comment either for or against proposed zoning items will have the opportunity to speak for 5 minutes or less. You get 5 minutes if you need it. You cannot give your unused time to another person. This will be a comment period only, no questions. Members of the public will be held to the same standards of decorum as commissioners, including civil, respectful discourse, and avoiding personal attacks. And again, that's on June the 7th. Planning and zoning is on May the 19th, and then the corresponding public hearing and regular board meeting is on June the 7th. And those will be advertised as well, if they haven't already. The board is going to meet next at a work session on Tuesday, May the 25th. 2021 at 6 o'clock, and that's our regular monthly work session, and it'll be here at the Justice Center. Commissioner Wester, do you have any announcements?
No, just thank you for keeping Mr. Mayfield's event at the forefront, and I think it was a great idea to make it a community event because that's who he loved being a part of.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Wester. Commissioner Swales, do you have any announcements?
I do. So this week is Teacher Appreciation Week, and this has been a once-in-a-lifetime type year for all of us. I don't know, I tend to have a short memory, but beginning of the year, beginning of the school year, there were a lot of cases throughout Franklin County of COVID. And our superintendent, Mr. Forer, spoke at a Rotary event and said, quite honestly, he didn't think we would be able to make it to Labor Day back in September with all the cases that we were dealing with. But our teachers really stepped up and did an amazing job with the situation they were dealt. Our school system has operated on a reduced budget throughout that process and done an amazing job as well. And I just want to thank our teachers, the Board of Education leadership, as well as Superintendent Chris Forer. With kids that go to the schools, we just have some awesome teachers that really do far more than we should even expect of them. But if you look throughout the state, Franklin County is on a short list of schools that made it all the way through. So it's something that we need to applaud them.
Yeah, I'll second that. Thank you, Commissioner Swales. Commissioner Foster.
I second what Eddie and Ron said.
Okay, Commissioner Franklin.
I apologize for not making the work session. My 53rd wedding anniversary was Monday, so me and my wife went to Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and visited with the Amish. We had a blast, and I got to thinking about litter in our county. Lancaster, Pennsylvania, you don't see no litter. They keep the roads. I mean, people don't throw it out. I guess if you're in a buggy, you don't have any to throw out. But if you ever get a chance to go to Lancaster, Pennsylvania, it's worth your time to go. But I told the chair, I said, been married a long time and we got to do something. I'm gonna miss that meeting, but we had a good time and enjoyed being back.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Franklin, and happy anniversary. All right, Commissioners, this time, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Wester's made a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Foster. Seconded the motion. All in favor of the motion to adjourn, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0, and we stand adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight.